The morning sky over planet Vora looked peaceful at first. A soft blue light touched the green plains around the human colony of Havenine. Farmers were working near the shield wall, repairing drones that watched the horizon. Children ran between solar towers, laughing as their metallic pets followed them. The air was calm, and life moved in its quiet rhythm. Then the sound came. It was not thunder, nor was it a storm. It was deeper, heavier, and felt like the heartbeat of the ground itself. Every sensor on the colony radar began to flash. The sky darkened as a shadow crossed over the sun. Commander Dale, leader of Haven 9, rushed to the control deck. His officers pointed at the large screen showing a massive shape descending through the clouds. The object was bigger than any ship they had seen. It did not match any known human or allied design. Dale ordered the defense grid to full power. The colony's alarm echoed through every street. From the sky, a giant ship of alien metal lowered slowly. Its surface shined with strange blue veins that pulsed like living light. Dust and wind swirled around as it landed just beyond the outer gates. The ground shook under its weight. Soldiers took positions behind barricades, holding plasma rifles with trembling hands. When the engines went silent, a huge ramp opened on the side of the alien craft. Out came a single figure. It was taller than any human, broad as a transport vehicle, and covered in heavy armor that looked like scales of black iron. Its eyes glowed gold under the dark helmet. The alien carried a long blade made of light that hummed in the air. No one moved. The alien stepped forward, scanning the area. Its deep voice let out a sound that echoed like thunder across the field. Most humans ran to the shelters. Only the guards and Commander Dale stayed in position. Fear filled the air thicker than the dust. Among the crowd, one person stood still. Her name was Mira, a young communication officer who worked in the signal tower. She had no weapon in her hand. Only a small scanner used to study new frequencies. She looked at the giant alien and felt something different. Others saw danger, but she saw confusion. The alien did not attack. It seemed to be searching for something. Mira watched as the alien's eyes moved across the soldiers. It stopped when it saw a wounded maintenance droid on the ground sparking from the dust. The alien walked toward it slowly. Everyone shouted warnings, but Mira noticed that the alien did not lift its weapon. It bent down and touched the machine carefully. The spark stopped, as if the alien had powered it down gently. That simple act froze the humans with surprise. The alien then looked toward the colony walls again. It raised its hand, not in anger, but in what looked like a sign of peace. The soldiers, still afraid, aimed their weapons tighter. Commander Dale ordered everyone to hold fire until the alien made a move. The air hung still, full of tension. Mira felt something pulling her heart. She remembered the first lessons she learned when she joined the communication corps. Language was not only words. It was movement, expression, and intent. She believed this alien was not here to destroy them. It looked tired, lonely, maybe even lost. Without asking for permission, Myra stepped through the barricade. Soldiers shouted her name, telling her to stop, but she kept walking. Her boots sank into the dust, and the wind blew her brown hair across her face. She raised both her hands to show that she carried no weapon. The alien turned its gaze toward her. For a moment, silence covered the world. The alien's golden eyes glowed brighter. It let out a low growl, warning her to stay back, but she did not. She spoke softly, her voice trembling but clear. "It's all right. We mean no harm." The alien could not understand her words, yet something in her tone made it pause. Commander Dale watched through the scope, ready to call for fire if anything happened. The soldiers whispered that she was out of her mind, but Mira stood still. The alien's head tilted slightly, as if studying her. It lowered its weapon halfway, uncertain of what she wanted. Mira reached into her pocket slowly and pulled out a small silver translator sphere. It was an old human device that could record sound patterns. She placed it on the ground and stepped back. The sphere blinked, scanning the alien's sounds. The alien looked down at it, curious. It made a soft rumbling noise, and the sphere glowed. Mira smiled. Yes, that's it. Talk to us. The alien gave another sound, longer this time. The sphere translated only a few broken words. No war. Seek. Home. The voice that came through was deep and strange, but the meaning was clear enough. The alien was not here for battle. It was searching for something, perhaps safety. The commander lowered his weapon slowly. The soldiers exchanged uncertain looks. Mira felt her heartbeat steady. She took another step forward. You're safe here, she said gently. We can help. The alien did not move for several seconds. Then it sheathed its weapon at its side and kneeled down. The ground trembled under its weight. Everyone watching felt a wave of disbelief. An alien warrior, taller than 3 men, knelt before a single unarmed human. Mira looked into its golden eyes and saw not anger, but exhaustion. She pointed at herself and said her name. Mira. The alien made a short sound, trying to repeat it. Mira. The crowd behind her gasped. It had spoken her name. Mira smiled with surprise and nodded. The alien pointed at its own chest. The translator's sphere repeated a single word, Rak. The name echoed deep, fitting the power and strength of the creature. Mira nodded again, repeating it softly. Rak. Something changed in that moment. The humans who had come ready to fight began to lower their weapons completely. Commander Dale stepped forward and called the med team to stand by. He wanted to make sure this alien was not injured. Myra and Rak remained there, facing each other in silence. A fragile thread of trust forming between them. After a few minutes, Rak stood up again and looked toward the sky. His armor had several cracks. He touched a wound on his arm that leaked dark blue fluid. Mira saw it and ran to her pack, taking out a medical kit. She approached slowly, showing the bandage to him. Rak watched her movements carefully. When she placed the bandage on his arm, he stayed still. His breathing slowed, and his eyes softened. Commander Dale spoke through the radio, telling the base to record everything. This was first contact of a kind never seen before. Mira continued to wrap the wound, speaking softly, even though she knew he did not understand the words. You're safe now. No one will hurt you. Rak looked down at the small human working to heal him. He had seen countless species before, many strong and cruel, but none that approached danger without fear. In his own world, strength was measured by victory. In this moment, he saw a different kind of strength, the courage to care. When the treatment was done, Rak touched his chest and then pointed at her again. The translator's sphere gave one word: gratitude. Mira nodded, her eyes bright with relief. She felt she had opened a door between 2 worlds. The commander approached them slowly with 2 guards. Rak stepped back, ready to defend himself, but Mira raised her hand to stop the soldiers. It's all right, she said. He understands. Commander Dale looked uncertain, but trusted her instinct. Rak looked toward the alien ship behind him. Smoke rose from its side. It was clear that his vessel had been damaged in a battle. The translator's sphere picked up more words. Ship broken. Enemies follow. Those words made every soldier tense again. The commander ordered the shield gates to full lock. Mira looked at Rak with concern. Enemies. Here, she asked. Rak nodded slowly. His golden eyes turned toward the horizon, as if sensing danger far away. Mira knew then that this meeting was only the beginning. The warrior had not come alone into the stars. Something was chasing him, and soon that threat might reach them too. As the sun began to set, Rak remained near the edge of the colony, resting beside his broken ship. Mira stayed close, sitting a few meters away. The air was quiet again, but a strange new feeling filled the land of fragile peace that could change at any moment. In the command center, Dale recorded his log. First contact achieved with unknown alien warrior species. No hostile act recorded. Communication possible through translator. Civilian officer Myra initiated peaceful contact. Alien calls itself Rak. Ship damaged. Possible enemy pursuit detected. We will monitor closely. Outside, Mira watched as Rak looked at the stars. His armor reflected the last light of the sun. She wondered what kind of life he had lived, what wars he had fought, and what home he had lost. The night breeze carried the sound of the colony generators humming softly. When she finally stood to leave, Rack made a low sound that stopped her. The translator sphere flickered and translated one more broken phrase. "You, brave." Mira turned back with a smile. "Thank you," she said quietly. She knew the alien could not understand every word, but the tone was enough. The humans of Haven 9 would remember that day as the day fear met courage. A single act of trust had saved them from battle. And though no one could predict what was coming, one thing was certain: only one human had found the courage to befriend the giant alien warrior. The morning after the arrival, the colony of Haven 9 woke under a heavy sky. The air carried tension not from war, but from the unknown. The alien ship still stood outside the main gate, damaged and silent. The people whispered among themselves, some afraid, some curious. Soldiers stayed on high alert, and the gates remained locked. Mira stood near the barrier, watching the massive figure sitting beside the broken vessel. The alien warrior, Rack, had not moved much through the night. He sat still like a statue made of iron and muscle. The light from the twin suns reflected on his armor, showing scars that told stories of many battles. Commander Dale joined Mira at the barrier. His face looked tired. He had been awake all night studying the scans of the alien craft. "You made history yesterday," he said quietly, "but we still do not know what he wants or what follows him." Mira nodded, her eyes fixed on Rack. "He is not a threat," she said softly. "He just needs help," Dale sighed. "Help is one thing. Trust is another. You saw what he said enemies follow. We have 2,000 people here, Mira. I cannot risk them for one unknown creature." Mira looked at him. "If we close our doors to everyone, then what makes us different from those who destroy?" The commander did not reply. He looked at the alien once more, then walked away to attend to the council meeting. Mira remained, feeling that strange pull in her chest again. Something about Rack's silence spoke louder than any words. She picked up her bag and walked through the outer gate. The guards protested, but she ignored them. Rack turned his head slightly when he saw her approaching. His eyes glowed faintly as he stood, towering over her like a wall of armor. Mira stopped a few feet away. She smiled and waved, holding a metal box in her hand. "Food," she said clearly. She opened the box and showed him small energy bars and a flask of water. Rack tilted his head, unsure. Myra took a bite herself, then offered the rest to him. After a moment of hesitation, Rack reached out carefully. His fingers were thick and rough, the claws dull from battle. He took the food and studied it. Then he ate slowly, like someone tasting something for the first time. Mira smiled. "See? Not poison." The translator sphere beside them blinked as it recorded the sounds. Rack's deep voice came through after a moment. "Gratitude." Mira nodded. "You are welcome." She sat on a rock nearby and took out a small datapad. On the screen, she drew a simple circle with 2 dots in a line. "Sun," she said. Then she pointed up at the sky. Rack watched and understood the idea. He took the stylus gently and drew beside her mark a shape that looked like a triangle with curved edges. The translator sphere spoke softly. Home. Mira's heart lifted. They had found a way to share meaning. For hours, they drew symbols, objects, and shapes. Each one taught them a little more about the other. Mira learned that Rack came from a planet called Verowan, a world of mountains and endless storms. He had been part of a warrior clan sworn to protect their lands. But his people were attacked by another alien race, forcing him to flee through the stars. When Mira drew the map of the local star system, Rack pointed toward the outer ring and made a sharp sound. The translator said, "Hunters," Mira understood. His enemies were near. Back in the colony, the council gathered again. Commander Dale reported the findings. The alien claims he is hunted by another group. If that is true, we may face an invasion soon. An older council member named Ren spoke firmly. We must send him away before the enemy finds him. We cannot risk our people. Mira entered the room before the commander could answer. Her voice was calm but strong. If you send him away, you will send away our only chance to understand who these enemies are. He can help us prepare. Ren frowned. You trust him too, Isley. He could be leading them here. Myra shook her head. He could have destroyed us already if that was his plan. He did not. He protected the damaged droid. He let us live. The room went quiet. Commander Dale looked from Mira to the council. Finally, he said, we will keep him under watch. No weapons given. Limited contact until we know more. That decision allowed Mira to continue her work. Each day she visited Rack outside the colony. She brought food, tools, and communication devices. Slowly, the alien began to speak more words through the translator. His tone remained deep and steady, but Mira could feel emotion behind it. One day, she found him studying the shield wall that surrounded the colony. His claws traced the glowing surface. Strong, the translator said. Yes, Mira replied. It keeps us safe from storms. Rack nodded, then pointed at his armor. Same. Mira smiled. So your armor is your shield, and this wall is ours. Maybe that means we are not so different. Rack gave a sound that almost seemed like laughter. It was low and short, but filled with warmth. Mira felt proud. She had made him laugh, even if only a little. Later that afternoon, a sudden alarm broke through the air. The radar picked up fast-moving signals entering the atmosphere. Soldiers rushed to positions again. Commander Dale ordered the shield wall to power up fully. Mira ran toward the gate, shouting for Rack. The alien had already stood, looking at the sky. His eyes turned brighter. Hunters, the translator said. 3 dark ships appeared above the horizon. They were smaller than Rack's ship, but heavily armed. They began to fire energy bolts toward the ground. The colony shield flared under the impact. Rack growled, his armor lighting up with blue energy. He drew his long blade from his back. Mira shouted, Stay behind the shield. We can defend from here. But Rack stepped forward, walking toward the edge of the barrier. The bolts rained down, shaking the ground. Commander Dale shouted over the radio, Mira, get back. The barrier will not hold forever. Mira ignored the order and ran toward Rack. He turned to her and spoke through the translator. They come for me. I must fight. Mira looked at him with fear and determination. Then let me help you. Rack shook his head slowly. Too small. Mira lifted her scanner and activated a jammer pulse. Small can still matter. The alien looked at her for a moment, then nodded. Together, they stood at the gate as the sky burned above them. The first enemy craft landed near the outer field. Strange creatures with gray skin and long arms stepped out, carrying weapons that glowed red. Rack roared and charged forward, moving faster than anyone thought possible for his size. He swung his blade, cutting through the first attackers with precise strength. Mira stayed near the gate, using her jammer to disrupt their signals. The soldiers from Havenine opened fire from behind the shield. Energy bolts and plasma blasts filled the air. Rack fought like a storm given form. Every movement was controlled, not wild. He blocked enemy fire with his arm shield and struck back with his glowing weapon. The translator's sphere caught his deep growls that sounded like battle chants. Mira watched in awe as the alien. Warrior protected both himself and the colony, but one of the enemy ships turned its cannon toward him. She shouted, Rack, move. He turned just as the blast came. It hit his side and threw him backward. Mira ran across the field as the dust rose. Rack lay still for a moment, then pushed himself up slowly. His armor was cracked again, smoke rising from his shoulder. Mira reached him and placed her hand on his arm. You are hurt. Please come back inside the shield. Rack looked toward the remaining enemy fighters. Only one ship was left, lifting off to retreat. The translator spoke. They run. Mira nodded. Yes, you won. He looked down at her, breathing heavy but steady. We won. Back inside the colony, the people cheered. They had seen everything through the cameras. Commander Dale watched the feed with disbelief. The alien they had feared had become their protector. When the dust settled, Rack sat again near his broken ship. Myra brought fresh water and medical supplies. She cleaned the burn marks from his armor. The translator sphere rested between them, recording every word. "You saved us," she said softly. Rack looked at her and replied, "You stood? Not run, you brave." Mira smiled. "You taught me that courage is not about size." The alien's eyes dimmed as he lowered his head slightly, a gesture that looked like respect. "Mira, friend." Her eyes widened at the sound of that word. The translator had spoken it clearly. "Friend," she repeated, feeling warmth in her chest. For the first time, the warrior from another world had called a human his friend. The stars above began to shine again as the night settled. The colony lights flickered across the fields, and the air grew calm once more. The people of Havanine could sleep in peace, not because of their walls or weapons, but because of an unlikely bond between two souls from different worlds. Myra looked up at the stars and then at Rack. "We have a lot to learn from each other," she said. Rack looked toward the sky and spoke through the translator. "Together strong." And as the twin moons of Vora rose, Mira knew that their meeting was no accident. It was the beginning of something greater, a story that would change not just their lives, but perhaps the future of both species. The morning sun rose over Havanine, painting the colony with golden light. Dust hung in the air from yesterday's battle. Soldiers moved carefully among the streets, checking the shields and repair drones. The alien warrior Rack sat outside near his broken ship. His armor was scorched and dented from the fight, but his posture remained proud. Mira approached with her small pack of tools and rations. Rack looked at her as she walked closer. "Myra, come," he said through the translator sphere. She smiled and sat beside him. She opened the pack and offered a ration bar. He accepted it without hesitation. "You were amazing yesterday," Mira said softly. "You saved many lives." Rack's eyes glowed faintly. "Needed, must protect." Mira nodded. "I know, but we must prepare. Your enemies are still out there. They may come again." He lifted his massive hand and pointed toward the horizon. "They follow. Soon." Mira understood. They had little time to build trust and prepare the colony for what could come. She took out a small device and laid it on the ground. "We can communicate faster this way," she said. She pressed a few buttons and drew a grid of symbols. Each shape represented objects, actions, or directions. Rack studied it closely. "Learn," he said simply. Myra smiled. "Yes, together we will learn each other." For hours, they worked. Mira taught Rack to understand the human signals for food, medicine, and warnings. He taught her the symbols of his world, warning signs for danger, and the meaning of weapons used by his kind. Slowly, a silent understanding grew between them. They did not need words for everything. A gesture, a look, a nod, or a small motion often carried meaning. That evening, Mira returned to the command center. She briefed Commander Dale and the council. "Rack can help us predict attacks. He understands the strategies of his enemies. We can build defenses faster if we work with him." Ren, the older council member, frowned. "We still do not know if we can trust him. One mistake and our colony could be destroyed." Mira held her ground. "He fought for us. He protected us. No enemy has done so. That counts for something," Commander Dale sighed. "We will allow him limited access to the shields and drones. Mira will continue as liaison. He stays outside the gates until fully healed." The next few days were filled with work. Mira often spent the mornings outside with Rack. She cleaned his armor, repaired his injuries, and taught him about human life in small ways. She showed him the farms, the water systems, and even simple games children played with robots. Rack watched everything carefully, asking questions through gestures and short words. One afternoon, a group of children wandered toward the outer wall. Mira called them back immediately. "Stay behind the barrier. It is dangerous," she warned. Rack noticed the fear in the children and made a soft rumble. He approached slowly and knelt, lowering his massive frame to the ground. He extended his hand carefully, showing he meant no harm. One brave child stepped forward and touched his armor. The other children followed, giggling softly. Mira smiled. Even in small ways, trust was growing. That night, Mira and Rack sat near his ship. The stars sparkled above, untouched by the turmoil of the colony. Mira held the translator sphere between them. "We need a plan," she said. "If the hunters come again, we must be ready." Rack nodded. "Train, learn, protect." Mira thought for a moment. "Then we start tomorrow. I will teach you our weapons and shields. You will teach me your combat techniques. We can combine strength." The alien tilted his head. Together strong, so the next morning they began training. Rack's movements were precise, powerful, and graceful despite his size. Mira guided him through the shield's energy fields, teaching him where humans could hide safely. He quickly adapted, using his size to advantage without endangering anyone. Mira also tried to learn from Rack. She watched his stance, how he held the blade and how he moved in battle. She practiced shadow movements beside him, imagining herself as part of the fight. Though small, she felt stronger knowing he was beside her. Over time, the colony grew less fearful. Soldiers watched Rack carefully, but they began to see him not as a threat, but as a protector. When he helped lift heavy equipment, repair walls, or even clear rubble after storms, murmurs of admiration grew among the people. Mira often heard whispers of wonder. "He fights with us, not against us." One evening, while Mira checked on him, Rack suddenly stiffened. His eyes glowed brighter. He looked toward the horizon, growling deep and low. Mira followed his gaze and saw a flicker of movement in the distance. Her stomach tightened. The hunters had returned. Rack turned to her. "Prepare." Mira nodded and ran to the communication tower. She alerted the colony. "All units, prepare for attack. Shields up. Secure civilians." The alien hunters descended in a stealth formation, smaller ships moving faster than the eye could follow. The colony's shields flared as energy bolts struck, testing the strength of the barriers. Mira activated the jammer again to disrupt some of the enemy's signals. Rack charged outside the shield, moving like a living storm. The enemy fighters targeted him first, knowing his power. Rack blocked attacks with his arms and struck with precise, controlled swings of his glowing blade. Mira and the soldiers supported him from behind the shield, aiming at attackers and protecting key areas. During the battle, Rack spotted a small group of children who had hidden near a damaged wall. He roared loudly and ran, lifting debris with his massive hands to clear a path. Mira followed, directing them to safety. The children stared in awe, unable to believe a single being could save them so quickly. When the attack ended, the enemy ships retreated. Rack stood outside, his armor damaged but his posture strong. Mira ran to him, placing her hand on his arm. "You did it. Everyone is safe." Rack lowered his gaze. "We did it together." Mira smiled. "Yes, together." That night, the colony celebrated quietly. No grand parties, only relief that their lives were spared. Mira and Rack sat outside, looking at the stars. He leaned slightly toward her, a gesture of respect and gratitude. "You are brave," he said softly through the translator. "You are brave too," Mira replied. "Not just because you fight, but because you choose to protect." Rack's eyes glowed faintly. "Friend." Mira nodded. "Yes, friend." The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. They trained together, learned together, and watched over the colony as equals. Mira understood that courage was not measured by size or strength alone. It was measured by the willingness to face fear and do what was right. Rack had shown her that trust and loyalty could be stronger than any weapon. Mira had shown him that compassion and understanding could create a bond even across worlds. Together, they were no longer just human and alien. They were guardians of Haven 9, a symbol of hope in the galaxy, and in the shadows beyond the stars. The hunters plotted their next move, unaware that they were facing not just a warrior, but the courage of one human who had dared to befriend the giant alien warrior. The day after the attack, the colony of Haven 9 was quiet, but the tension remained thick. The settlers repaired shields, cleared debris, and attended to minor injuries. The victory had been theirs, yet not everyone felt safe. Rumors circulated among the soldiers and citizens alike about the giant alien warrior outside the gate. Some whispered that he was a friend. Others feared he was a spy waiting for the right moment. Inside the council chamber, Commander Dale sat at the head of a long table. He scanned the records from the previous battle. Screens showed Rack's actions and the retreat of the enemy ships. Mira stood nearby, holding the translator's sphere. "The alien warrior fought for us," Mira began. "He saved children. He saved soldiers. He saved the colony. We cannot deny his actions." Counselor Wren, the elder member, leaned forward. "And what if this is a trick? What if he leads the hunters to us? You risk the entire colony for one alien who may not even understand human ways." Mira shook her head firmly. "He understands more than you think. He has learned our language, our symbols, and our methods. He has proven his loyalty through actions, not words." Another counselor, Taryn, frowned. "Loyalty is easy to claim. Trust is earned over time. 1 or 2 battles do not prove that he will remain our ally." Mira glanced at Rack, who stood outside the chamber, massive and quiet, his golden eyes fixed on the sky. "He has no reason to harm us," she said softly. "He cannot survive alone. And he has already fought to protect us." Wren's eyes narrowed. "You speak with passion, Mira, but this council cannot ignore potential risk. The hunters could return in greater numbers. We need plans to defend ourselves if he turns against us." Commander Dale raised his hands to calm the room. "We will not give him weapons beyond what he already has. He will remain outside the shielded perimeter until fully healed. Mira will act as liaison." "That is the compromise." Myra nodded silently, though her heart felt heavy. She knew Rack deserved more trust than the council would give him. But she understood the responsibility of leadership. Outside, Rack watched Mira leave. He sensed the unease in the humans and understood it in his own way. His golden eyes dimmed slightly as he knelt near the edge of the barrier. Mira walked back to him and crouched beside him. "They doubt you," she said. "They do not see what I see." Rack made a low sound, almost like a sigh. "Humans, cautious. Understandable. I protect. I wait." Mira touched his armored hand. "I will help them see. But it will take time." The days that followed were filled with effort to prove trust. Mira arranged demonstrations of Rack's capabilities, showing how he could lift damaged equipment, clear debris, and assist with heavy construction. Soldiers observed quietly, sometimes impressed, sometimes uneasy. One afternoon, Mira brought a group of technicians to the edge of the colony. They needed to repair a broken energy field generator that was too heavy for human workers alone. Rack lifted the massive machinery with ease, positioning it carefully without breaking it. Mira directed him with gestures, and the generator was restored in record time. When the work was done, the soldiers whispered among themselves. "He is strong," one said. "But can we trust him?" Another replied, "I do not know, but he saved us yesterday. That counts for something." Mira smiled quietly. Progress was slow, but it existed. That night, Maya returned to Rack. The twin moons reflected off his armor, showing scars and dents from previous battles. "Tomorrow," she said, "we will train the guards with your help. They will see how you fight and defend." Rack tilted his head. "Show strength." "Yes, show not just strength, but control. Show them you protect, not destroy." Rack's eyes glowed faintly. Protect. The next morning, the colony gathered for the training demonstration. Soldiers lined up behind the shields, while Mira stood beside Rack, explaining the exercise. The enemy ships would simulate an attack. Mira activated the signal, and holographic targets appeared across the training field. Rack moved with surprising speed. He blocked incoming energy blasts, striking with precision. He lifted fallen holographic drones, repositioned them, and shielded simulated civilians from harm. Mira narrated to the soldiers, pointing out how Rack anticipated every move. By the end of the demonstration, the soldiers were silent. They had seen strength, but more importantly, they had seen a creature who understood protection and discipline. Commander Dale stepped forward, his eyes meeting Mira's. "This changes things," he said quietly. Even Counselor Wren, who had remained distant, nodded slowly. "Perhaps trust can be earned. But we must remain cautious. The hunters are still out there." Mira agreed. "We will not ignore danger. But Rack deserves a chance to prove himself fully. He is no enemy." The alien warrior, Rack, stood tall beside her, observing the humans around him. Though he could not speak every word in their language, his actions carried meaning. Every movement, every choice showed intent. And slowly, the colony began to understand. Over the following days, Mira and Rack continued their training and worked together. They repaired the outer walls, strengthened the shield generators, and taught the soldiers to anticipate the hunter's strategies. Each day, Rack grew more integrated into the daily life of the colony, though always careful to remain aware of threats. One afternoon, Mira found a young boy, no older than 10, standing near the edge of the field. He was afraid, but curious, staring up at Rack. Mira approached slowly. "Do you want to say hello?" she asked. The boy nodded cautiously. Mira guided him forward. Rack knelt low, lowering his immense size to meet the boy at eye level. The child reached out and touched Rack's arm. The warrior remained still, gentle, and patient. The boy smiled and ran back to his friends. Mira watched and felt warmth in her chest. Trust was spreading, slowly but surely. Not every human accepted Rack, but each small act helped. Soldiers began sharing supplies with him. Children learned to wave and greet him. The colonists whispered stories of the alien warrior who protected them. Mira often sat with him in the evenings, reviewing the day's events, planning the next strategies, and sharing stories of Earth, Vora, and distant worlds. One night, as they watched the twin moons rise, Rack spoke softly. "Humans, different, brave." Mira smiled. "You are learning about us, and we are learning about you. Together, we are stronger." The alien tilted his head, considering her words. Together. Strong, their bond had grown beyond simple friendship. It had become trust, respect, and understanding. And yet, Mira knew that this trust would soon face its greatest test. The hunters were out there, planning, observing, and waiting for the right moment to strike. Havenine could not rely on courage alone. It needed strategy, unity, and the bond between human and alien to survive. Days later, scouts reported movement beyond the outer plains. The humans prepared, but Mira knew Rack sensed it before the instruments did. The alien warrior's eyes glowed gold, his body tense and ready. Mira placed her hand on his arm. "We face them together," she said. Rack nodded. "Together. Defend." As the twin moons reflected off the armor and shields, the colony stood ready. Mira looked at the council members, who now watched with cautious hope. Rack's presence had shifted something. Fear remained, but it was tempered by awe and respect. The hunters would come. The question was not whether Rack could fight, but whether humans and alien could stand as one. Mira knew they had already taken the first steps toward unity, and with courage, patience, and trust, they would face the challenges ahead together. For the first time, the colony felt that they were not just defending themselves against an unknown threat. They were part of a growing alliance, a bond between species that could change the way the galaxy saw humanity. Mira and Rack's friendship had become a symbol, a quiet promise that courage, trust, and compassion could overcome even the most fearsome obstacles. And outside the colony, under the twin moons of Vora, Rack lowered his massive form into a protective stance. Mira stood beside him. Together, human and alien faced the night, ready to protect Havenine from all that might come, proving that courage and trust could bridge worlds. The battle had ended, but the air was still heavy with smoke and the sharp temps of scorched metal. Maris Nine's colony, once peaceful and quiet, now looked like a battlefield. Buildings were cracked, debris littered the streets, and the ground was scorched from the alien fire. The colonists moved cautiously, some limping, some carrying supplies, and many simply staring at the destruction in shock. Mira walked through the chaos, her heart pounding. She could feel the adrenaline from the battle still coursing through her veins. She was searching for Vor. She found him near the edge of the landing bay. His massive armor was scratched and dented from the attacks, some pieces hanging loosely from his frame. His spear, though intact, was scorched in several places. Despite this, he stood tall, his eyes glowing faintly in the smoke. He had always been imposing, but now he looked tired. He looked like he had fought not just for himself, but for an entire planet. Mira ran up to him, carrying a small pack with repair tools and energy patches she had kept ready. "Vorkon," she called, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "You need repairs. We can't leave you like this." He turned his gaze toward her. There was a flicker of something in his glowing eyes. Gratitude, perhaps, or maybe recognition of the bond they had formed. He nodded slightly and stepped aside, allowing her to approach. Mira knelt beside his leg armor, which had several deep cracks and scorched circuits. Carefully, she applied the patches, reconnecting the broken energy lines and smoothing out the dents. The work was slow. Vorkon's armor was unlike any human technology she had ever repaired. It hummed with energy, almost alive in its own way. She felt a strange thrill as she worked, knowing that this warrior feared across galaxies, trusted her hands. Other colonists watched from a distance, some hiding behind rubble, some peeking from broken windows. They had seen the courage of Mira during the battle, how she had guided turrets, rerouted power, stayed close to Vorkon when everyone else had run. Slowly, whispers began to spread. Maybe she had been right. Maybe this giant warrior was not their enemy. As Mira finished the final repairs, Vorkon bent down slightly to look at her. "Mira," he said, his voice deep and resonant, the translation device capturing it perfectly. "You risked everything for me? No human has ever done this." Mira shook her head with a small smile. "It wasn't just for you. You fought to save everyone. I could not let that go unnoticed." Vorkon's eyes softened. For the first time, he lowered his massive frame almost to the ground, sitting cross-legged in a gesture that seemed almost human. Myra stood beside him, feeling the weight of history and trust in the moment. They had survived the battle, but more importantly, they had survived it together. The colony council approached cautiously. Governor Laren, a stern woman with gray streaks in her hair, stepped forward. She had seen the devastation. She had seen Mira's courage, and she had seen Vorkon defend their people. She took a deep breath. "Vorkon," she said carefully, "we owe you a debt. You came here wounded, but you did not harm us. You protected this colony when others would have destroyed it." Vorkon bowed slightly. "I sought only refuge. I did not wish to fight your people. But when my pursuers attacked, I had no choice. I only defended those who could not defend themselves." The council members exchanged looks. They were hesitant, cautious, and still unsure. Centuries of fear and stories of the Kral empires might made them wary. But Mira stepped forward boldly. "Governor, council, look at what has happened. Vorkon is not our enemy. He fought for us. He chose to protect us. He chose peace, and he trusted a human. If we are to survive in this galaxy, we must do the same." Silence followed. Then, slowly, other colonists began to step closer. Children peeked from behind broken walls. Workers who had fled during the battle returned with supplies. The fear in their eyes began to fade, replaced with curiosity, wonder, and respect. The colony had survived because of courage, human and alien courage together. Vorkon stood, towering above the crowd, and looked around. He could feel the fear that still lingered, but also the hope. Hope that this planet, small and quiet compared to the stars he knew, could become a sanctuary. A place where a Kral warrior could find peace. And more than that, a place where humans could show that courage, kindness, trust were more powerful than fear. Over the next few days, Vorkon helped the colonists rebuild. With his strength, he lifted heavy debris and repaired damaged structures. With Mira's guidance, he helped repair energy systems, stabilize broken machines, and restore the colony's defenses. While many were wary at first, seeing him work tirelessly to help, Their fear gradually turned into admiration. Vorkon was not just a warrior. He was a protector. Mira spent almost every day by his side. She learned more about Krail culture, their history, and the reasons behind the civil war that had sent him here. In turn, she shared human stories, culture, and laughter. Their bond grew beyond mere trust. It became friendship. They laughed when Vorkon struggled with small tasks that were simple for humans, and he marveled at her ingenuity in repairing complex systems with limited resources. One evening, as the twin suns of Maris 9 began to set, painting the sky in gold and purple, Mira and Vorkon stood on a hill overlooking the colony. The lights of rebuilding homes flickered below. Smoke had cleared, but the battle scars remained visible. Vorkon's massive silhouette stood tall against the setting suns. "You know, Mira," he said in his deep voice, "I never imagined that a human could be so. Fearless. You ran into danger when everyone else ran away. You treated me as more than a weapon or a story. You treated me as a being." Mira smiled, brushing dust from her sleeves. "I just saw what needed to be done. Fear is easy. Courage is hard. You showed courage too. We both did what needed to be done." For a long moment, they stood in silence, watching the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, full of empires, wars, and countless unknown threats. Yet in this small colony, on a distant planet, humans and a Krail warrior had found a bond stronger than fear. Governor Laren approached them, her expression softer now. "Vorkon," she said, "the council has voted. You are welcome here. The colony offers you sanctuary. Not because we owe you, but because you have shown us that courage and trust can change everything." Vorkon bowed his massive head. "I accept. Not for myself, but for what you have shown me. Humanity has courage unlike any other I have witnessed. I will stay and protect this place as long as I am able." Mira stepped forward and placed a hand lightly on his armored arm. "And I will be here too. Not as a mechanic or a protector, but as a friend. That is the bond that matters most." The colonists gathered around, hesitant at first, but slowly coming closer. They saw Vorkon helping with heavy debris, repairing systems, even playing simple games with the children who dared to approach. Laughter echoed in the streets where only hours before there had been panic. Mira watched the change in the faces around her. Trust had been built, fear had been replaced with hope, and the impossible friendship between human and alien had proven stronger than any weapon. Months passed, and the colony flourished. With Vorkon's strength and the human ingenuity of Myra and others, they developed new technologies, expanded their habitat, and even prepared to explore neighboring systems. Other Krail warriors eventually arrived, curious about Vorkon's choice. Some came as threats, but many stayed, inspired by the trust he had found here. Peaceful settlements began to form, and the galaxy slowly started to take notice of this small, thriving colony that had welcomed a warrior instead of fearing him. One morning, Mira and Vorkon stood at the edge of the landing bay. Watching a shipment of supplies arrive from a nearby planet, the suns rose again, filling the sky with light. Mira glanced at Vorkon, smiling. Who would have thought? A human mechanic and a Krail warrior building a new world together. Vorkon's glowing eyes softened. It was never about building alone. It was about trust, courage, and choosing what is right. The galaxy will remember this moment. Humans are stronger than I imagined, not because of weapons or strength, but because of heart. Mira laughed softly. And don't forget, you helped too. You showed that even the strongest warrior can choose peace. The two of them looked out across the colony. Children played among repaired structures, workers laughed and shared meals, and the sound of construction filled the air. The bond between human and alien had created more than safety. It had created hope, a future, and a lesson for the galaxy. As the suns climbed higher, Mira turned to Vorkon. No matter what comes next, we face it together. Humans and Krail, side by side. That is what matters. Vorkon extended his massive hand, and Mira shook it firmly. Together, he agreed. The galaxy will see that courage and friendship can overcome fear, war, and hatred. And in that moment, on a small colony on Maris 9, humanity had proven once again that even against the greatest odds, the heart of one human could change the fate of many. Trust, courage, and friendship had triumphed, and the bond between Mira and Vorkan became a symbol of hope across the stars. The galaxy would remember this day, and Maris 9 would shine as a testament to what humans could achieve when they dared to be brave, kind, and unyielding in the face of fear. And for Myra and Vorkan, this was only the beginning.